You ever crank up a track so primal it makes your chest rattle like a Viking longship crashing through waves? That's Immigrant Song for you, Led Zeppelin's howling beast from 1970 that still slaps harder than a thunder god's mallet. This isn't just some riff. It's a cultural battering ram that's outlived bell-bottoms, bad perms, and half the bands that tried to copy it. But here's the buried intrigue. What if I told you this epic started as a cheeky lark in a frozen backwater, sparked by a gig that nearly didn't happen, and unleashed a storm of myths, mishaps, and metal mayhem? Stick around, because we're peeling back the layers on the history behind Led Zeppelin's Immigrant Song, from its frosty origins to the wild facts that'll have you questioning everything you thought you knew about those long-haired overlords. Let's rewind to the spark that ignited this monster. Picture Led Zeppelin in the summer of 1970, fresh off a string of shows that had critics foaming at the mouth, some loving them, others calling them bloated blues thieves. Their Bath Festival gig in England gets scrubbed because, well, British weather's about as reliable as a groupie's promise. So, what's a band to do? They hop a plane to Iceland, of all places, as guests of the government on some half-baked cultural exchange. Yeah, you heard that right. Zepp as diplomats. Robert Plant, with his golden locks flowing like a shampoo had gone rogue, lands in Reykjavik on June the 22nd, stares at the steaming hot springs and endless ice fields, and thinks, blimey, this is Viking Central. They play Laugardalshol Arena, subbing in for Jefferson Airplane who bailed, and the crowd goes berserk, polite, Icelandic applause turning into a full-on frenzy. Plant later quips it was like invading with amps instead of axes. That night, the lyrics start bubbling up. We come from the land of the ice and snow, from the midnight sun where the hot springs flow. Straight nod to Iceland's geothermal weirdness and that eerie, endless daylight. But Plant's spinning a yarn here, channeling Viking raiders sailing west for conquest. Historically dodgy, Vikings hit England from the east, but who cares when it sounds this fierce? It's Plant's fantasy mashup of Norse lore and their own road warrior life. Now the composition. Jimmy Page lays down that relentless riff, da-da-dun, da-da-dun, like a heartbeat on steroids, while John Paul Jones thumps the bass like he's summoning earthquakes, and Bonzo, John Bonham, smashes drums with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. They bash it out in rehearsals right after Iceland, debuting it live in Germany just weeks later. Plant's screech, ah, ah, that's pure ad-libbed banshee, echoing across fjords in his mind. And get this, the whole thing was meant as a piss take, a joke on their endless touring grind. Plant even admitted it was tongue-in-cheek, fantasizing about Vikings while jet-lagged and homesick. But jokes have a way of turning legendary when you've got Zepp's alchemy. Unpack those lyrics deeper. The hammer of the gods will drive our ships to new lands. That's Mjolnir, Thor's hammer, straight from Norse myths. Plant's obsessed with Celtic and pagan vibes, weaving inward gods and afterlife glory. To fight the Horde, sing and cry, Valhalla, I am coming. Valhalla's the hall of slain warriors, where Odin throws eternal parties for the brave. It's Plant boasting like a berserker, but slyly mirroring the band's own conquest of the charts. What if the Vikings had electric guitars? They'd probably sue Zepp for royalties on the attitude. Shifting gears to the album saga, Led Zeppelin 3, where Immigrant Song kicks off like a declaration of war. By early 70, the band was knackered from non-stop touring and snarky press calling them hype machines. So they bugger off to a remote Welsh cottage called Bronir Awr. No electricity, just acoustic guitars and fresh air. Page and Plant hike the hills, scribble folk-tinged tunes, channeling Dylan meets Druids. Then back to England, recording at Headley Grange with a mobile studio trucked in by the Rolling Stones. Fancy that, rock royalty sharing toys. Sessions are loose. Bonham's kid Jason banging pots, engineers capturing echoes in stairwells for that raw thump. But drama brews. The album drops October 5th, 1970, and critics savage it for going soft. Too much mandolin, not enough whole lotta love bluster. Rolling Stone calls it a letdown. Fans scratch heads at the wheel cover gimmick. Plant's fuming, Page is stoic, but sales soar anyway, over 6 million in the US alone. Immigrant Song gets pushed as a single in America, peaking at 16, but banned in the UK because Zepp hated singles diluting albums. Launch hiccups aside, it's the pivot point. Zepp proving they're not one-trick ponies, blending folk mysticism with hard rock fury. Imagine if they'd stuck to blues covers. We'd all be listening to elevator music instead of arena anthems. From there, Immigrant Song ascends to legend status faster than Page's guitar solos. Live, it's an opener beast. Plant wailing like a siren, Bonham's fills rattling arenas from 70 to 73. They drop it after that, but bootlegs capture the chaos, extended jams, crowd roars, drowning out the PA. Chart-wise, it's a sleeper hit, embedding in rock DNA. But the real ascent? Pop culture osmosis. Fast forward to quirky aftermaths. Jack Black in School of Rock, begging Zepp on camera for rights. Plant and Page watch the plea, chuckle and greenlight it because, why not? Then Thor, Ragnarok blasts it during the opening scene, tying back to those Norse roots. Marvel shells out big bucks. Zepp cashes in without lifting a finger. Even Shrek the Third sneaks in a nod, though that's more ogre than Odin. Covers pile up like tribute offerings. Trent Reznor and Karen O turn it industrial for Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. All gritty synths and menace. Ann Wilson belts it with Heart's Fire. Vanilla Fudge slows it to psychedelic sludge, and brass bands like Brass against honk it out like a Viking funeral march. Hell, even Hamilton Mixtape flips it into an immigrant anthem with rappers spitting bars over the riff. The ripple effects? Massive. Immigrant Song births Viking metal. Bands like Amon Amarth growling about longships, crediting Zepp for the myth metal fusion. It cements Led Zepp as lore weavers, influencing everyone from metalheads to movie scores. Obscure nugget. A fan in Iceland claims his grandma hosted the band for tea, spilling stories of ancient sagas that fed Plant's pen. Unverified, but wouldn't that be a hoot? And the meaning behind the song? Beyond Vikings, it's Zepp's manifesto. Invaders of the music world, hammering paths through doubters. What if Plant had written about tea and crumpets instead? We'd have emigrant scone, and rock would be a tad less thunderous. Satirical swipe. Modern bands try aping it with auto-tune Vikings. Please, spare us the filter horde. So there you have it, the wild, wacky history of Led Zeppelin's Immigrant Song, from icy inspirations to eternal echoes. If this tale of myths, mishaps, and metal got your blood pumping, smash that like button like Bonham on a gong, subscribe for more rock lore dives, and drop a comment. What's your fave Zepp deep cut? Until next time, keep fighting the Horde. Valhalla awaits.